Dudes with wrenches here. Now, this one's going to be a long one, everybody, but it has a good point. And the point is, we got together as dudes, and we put somebody's car together. Now, this car means a lot to the person that ended up receiving it. He's a good friend of mine. And we built a car that other people had owned previously and done a really poor job of putting together. And, like most things, it got abandoned, and we had to come in, scoop it up, and throw her together on the cheap. This is a budget-built 1974 Olds Omega. Hope you enjoy.
Ooh, it's got the fancy antique plates on it.
Like that?
I like that. Did you get those?
I got them off eBay.
Ah.
I got some Texas ones and some Minnesota ones too. Depending on what state I want to be showing in.
We're gonna tear this whole thing apart and make it a running and driving car again. Fix the abandoned projects of others. Alright, let me get this thing loaded up on the trailer and taken to the garage without AC. All good ideas. All good ideas. And she does roll good. Man, all that condensation from all that sweet air conditioning.
You trying to go up on there? Or?
Yeah, just go as far up on there as we can make it go.
You can't stop it.
There we go. Are you holding it there, or is this gonna stay? Let me grab some. I'm looking for something heavy and metal. There we go.
You gonna hold her?
I should hold her.
I ordered some new trim rings too. I just got these off somebody for $10 a piece.
Yeah.
But they're kind of banged up.
I don't hate the trim rings now that they're on there. I always say I hate trim rings until they're on there, and then I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it shines it up a little bit.
Yeah, makes it look the factory. I don't like the fact that it's 14s, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Yep. Day late and $1 short right there. Look around the. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. You gotta love living out here. Just the best. All right, let's go back to doing this. Hooligans on little mini bikes.
Less whipping, more steering.
This car came with a factory 250 inline 6 Chevy motor they were putting in these. And somebody decided that wasn't enough. And they put a 383 in there. Well, that's what we were told it is. And they did some things that we'll talk about later that weren't maybe right, but they just tried to get it running just to prove the motor would run. And needless to say, it didn't. So then this became an abandoned 74 Oldsmobile Omega, and that's when it got bought up. And we're gonna put a motor in it because this one's got problems. Pro tip: take a permanent marker, draw around your hood hinges, because then you'll know where the hood goes back on. Removing a hood is not always necessary, but it is always helpful. Now that we got that off, we're gonna start looking at pretty basic to pull this guy. They never installed a lot of that, so it should come out pretty easy. Just a couple motor mount bolts, distributor, bell housing bolts, simple stuff. We already loosened the distributor. We'll get it out of the way, just because we don't want to end up crushing it, and got to use it on the other motor. So get this thing out of here. We have all the bolts out, and this thing's good and stuck. So we're gonna whack it with a rubber mallet, maybe. It's kind of showing us that maybe this thing might have got corroded somewhere. All right, we got road hammer here. This hammer was acquired off the road. I'm gonna give it a little whack. She's on there good. Yeah. So your carburetor should never be that stuck on with all the bolts out of it. That's a bad sign. So we don't care about these Chinesium valve covers. So we're gonna stick a pry bar on there maybe. Try not to bend on anything that's bendy. Yeah, fun. Now make sure you don't bend up on nothing that's bendable. Holy moly. Why is that stuck? Oh, there she goes.
Louise.
You shouldn't have to put a 2-foot pry bar on your carburetor. But evidently on this one you do. They might have glued her down. Oh, wow. That is on there. Gasket wasn't going to leak. Oh. See, this is a bad sign. This carburetor might have seen some water. This also could be caused by the studs. Maybe just aren't real straight. Oh, man. You can't even get the plate off there. Ooh, and she just reeks of raw old nasty gas. So we are definitely pumping some fuel in it. Put that kick down, Kayla. Yep. Ooh. She's a dual plane. That's not good. You don't want to see that in your intake when it's aluminum. Well, you don't want to see it ever, but that's why this one's coming out. You should never have an oil pan that looks like that. Caved-in oil pans are bad, because that's where your pickup tube is. So that was another reason why this one got told no, other than the fact that it doesn't turn. I also really beat up these headers to get them in there, which sometimes you gotta do that. Those are jammed up in there. They just around everything. It's gonna have one of those set of headers that just doesn't get in where it should. Alright, so we're gonna fight those headers down. Take off those torque converter bolts and then start taking out bell housing bolts. So this will be pretty quick. We're gonna pull this horribly damaged oil filter. Ugh, just bad. And this oil plug and see what comes out of this nasty greasy motor. See if there's any. Oh, that looks like fuel. Don't even look like oil.
Oh no.
It's the bads. Oh. Oh, that doesn't even feel like oil. Oh, I don't know what that is, but that does not look like oil. It's really thin. Oh, it's all gas. It's all gas. They were just letting that electric fuel pump run and she was just filling the motor up. That's not good.
Nope.
Just reeks of fuel and it is so thin.
Smell it from up here bad.
Oh. Oh yeah, it reeks. That is old fuel oil. Oh. She is a little runny. No viscosity left in that oil. Give me an oil filter wrench. Big boy on there. Get on there, big boy. There we go. Come on. Come on. Nope, hit her upside down. Get her on there. Yeah. Oh, slipping. What happens when they're bent like that? Yep. More of that engine honey. I don't know. That's just fuel. Yeah. That's not oil. They painted it with the adapter not even taped off. A lot of paint up there in the oil filter adapter.
Nice.
That's always a good sign of quality.
Quality build.
Also, a side note before we get too far here. That one's got a problem. It's a little crooked and it's tight, like they just zipped her up in there. It's probably poorly cross-threaded. But these holes go all the way through, so worst case scenario, we can retap That's wrong. That's definitely wrong. So, flush rebuilt. So we'll see that. It does have a drain. There was things done to it. This is not factory. Silicone up here isn't factory. It looks pretty clean for a transmission that's got a lot of grease up in here, but we'll see. Maybe they stabbed this thing together and it came out of a running unit. I doubt it. This motor does not look like it was running. We'll get that other one to where it's exposed over here. Oh, somebody really wanted them tight. Oh, whoo. They were good at something, and that something was tightening bolts. We all gotta be good at something. See how we can free spin the converter. So now we know we're free, so we can start working on the bell housing bolts. Somebody really horsed them down. Motor mount number 2. Get it? Come on. You go now. Almost there. Make sure you bust your hands up just a few times on all these pointy bits. If you're not busting your hands up, you're not doing it right. Maybe an impact. I like to struggle. It's fine. Alright. Almost there. I think we're there. Alright. Now, that is a bell housing bolt, and directly above it, let's see, right there, that should be a bell housing bolt, but there's no bell housing bolt in there, so that troubles me just a tad. So we're going to pull that bolt, and we're going to pull that non-existing bolt, you know, make-believe style, and there's one on the other side, and then there should be one around the top somewhere. We'll review, but yeah, bell housing bolts. Fun part about minus hood and old cars, you just stand in the engine bay. We just have little bell housing bolts here and here to get off. They look like somebody's nicely rounded them out just a little. Make sure you try to fall down and hurt yourself. All the pointy bits. Oh! Yep, like that. That was my hand. You didn't need that hand. Oh, gosh. We're beginning to wonder what this transmission is, because it doesn't look like a 350. And they moved the Crossmember. We'll address that once we get out of here. Watch out for pointy boys like that. Definitely make sure you direct your hands at them. Okay, that's interesting. They definitely made sure the ones they could get at were tight. And they were minus, you know, a couple bolts, so made sure they were extra tight. Grab me a hammer. We'll also notice they never actually put a holder on the dipstick tube, so that was just going to rattle around forever and a day. There's a lot of things wrong with whoever installed this mess here. Now remember, boys and girls, properly chalked tires is important when your transmission isn't hooked to your rear end. A little bit. We're not finding that perfect sweet spot to let these out. Try this one for a little bit. I don't like to drive the motor mount bolts out because that messes them up.
Yeah, it mushrooms the
These
ends.
guys must have done something to these things to drive them in. So I don't think the motor mounts they have bolted in there are correct. Okay, so what we're running into the issue of right now is these bolts will not come out. So we're gonna get the old negotiator and we're gonna smack them out. So just run it up a little bit. Okay, right there. Oh, it still won't come out. Okay, lift up on just a little bit. They should not be this tight. Pull with no pressure on them. Up. Okay, there's one. There's two. Bell housing before we get the motor mounts off the plates. Okay. Oh, there she goes. That is not going to go back in there fun. Alright. That's kind of how you do it, I guess.
All the way on the back of the motor.
Yeah, catching everything. Okay, pull it out your way. Okay. All right, up. Ta-da! We were going to reuse the distributor, but we quickly figured out that's not an option because it's got a cracky in it. It's missing that piece. So this thing was totally dropped in there with the distributor on it. And that's why you don't do that, because you can end up breaking the base of your distributor. So now we got to get a distributor. And there's also a lot of stuff. See that? You never want debris coming out of your distributor like that. Motor was a little stuck. Which, mind you, it's a lot less stuck now. I got to put it up on an engine stand so we can spin it over. But it seems a lot less stuck now that it's not attached to the transmission, which really troubles me. Oof. She's got, like, real bad corrosion. Let's get this off there. Ugh, even the plug-in was corroded on there. Alrighty, let's address some things wrong with this build. This motor mount, it's mounted up here real well, but it's not mounted on the bottom at all. You don't want your motor mount floating like that. I wouldn't want to put my motor down on those and expect them to hold everything. So we're going to have to do something with that to address that issue. Now, tell me I'm wrong, but we do know this was a 250 inline 6 car factory. I'm going to lay to guess the original 250 inline 6 motor mounts would have worked with a small block Chevy. So I'm not sure why they needed to change them outside they thought they wouldn't work or they wanted new ones, but we're gonna have to fix that. Now let's move on to pulling that transmission out and telling you what I really don't like about it. Man, that bolt, I just gotta keep coming back to this thing. Look at that guy. Just a little crooked. I mean, yeah. See these two holes right here? That's your access to bolt your crossmember. That crossmember has been moved back to mount this transmission. And you'll notice over here, this side of the crossmember has not been pushed back. And someone kicked that side back to make this transmission fit because it doesn't belong here. Pretty sure we have a 3rd gen Camaro 700R4 here, not the 350 turbo that we were told was in the car when it was bought. So this transmission is hard against the floor of the car. It was never meant to be here. The tunnel is not big enough for it. This was a bad choice for transmission for this vehicle. Oh, they didn't even put both bolts in the mount. Great. This is where it gets sketchy, everybody. There it is. Okay. Oh. That tranny mount moves. That's never a good sign. All the best. This electrical plug-in is going to tell us the 700R4 plus the electric speedometer, which is going to tell us it's a later 80s 700R4. And these holes right here on the tail housing, that's for a 5th arm for a 3rd gen Camaro. Yeah, dead giveaway. So what we're figuring out about this setup is this was a 383 supposedly with a 700R4 out of a 3rd gen Camaro. We don't know what's wrong with this transmission. There could be nothing wrong with this transmission, but it does not fit this application. It's too long, it's too fat, doesn't fit the cross member, doesn't have the ability to hook a speedometer to it, doesn't have any of the linkages we need, and we'll have to figure out what electronics need to be wired to it to even get the lockup to work. So we could put this in. There's nothing wrong with running a 700R4 in a 70s vehicle. But this is more of a budget, let's get it going build. So where we thought we had a 350 turbo, we don't. This just got a little more painstaking. We're going to stuff this one away and grab a 350 turbo we have lying around.
All right, time for some sweet voiceover action now. Now this right here is a 305 Chevy we got used for $200, delivered with a guarantee that it actually runs our money back. And that's the best way to start a budget-built 74 Omega. And we're going to do that by stripping this thing all down and putting some old school carburetor, distributor, and intake on this thing and just really sending her. And it's a high output 305. Which I guess means something to somebody.
Alright, boys and girls, little life lesson for you. When we pop this valve cover off, which valve train doesn't look too bad, it could look better or cleaner, but we did notice this little guy and this little guy. That's caused from taking your quart of oil and stuffing it in the filler hole there and bringing it back out without the little sealing ring. Now those couldn't get down in the drains, but you know, it's not good to have plastic pieces floating around inside your motor. Pay attention to those coming back when you're putting the oil in. Definitely cleaner. I mean, look, it's even flash resting. That's a thing. So, stabbing these old valve covers back on. We're going to stick the old oil pan back on. And we're going to paint this pig because, you know, wasting paint is cool. Wait, this classifies as a full rebuild, right?
New paint means new motor.
Yeah, new motor. Definitely. That's what I've been told. I've bought enough of them that way. Yep. Well, we were just going to paint the motor, and then the color wasn't exactly what we wanted, and then you can really see what we've done here. We've made it shiny and sparkly, and it's actually multiple colors now and accented, and yeah, so it's a version of Chevy engine orange, but like a sunrise orange, because we've got Chevy orange in it. You got this version of Chevy orange, which isn't the same, and we've got this burnt copper now, and we've got this straight up red, and we're about to clear coat it. So now, we got the old motor up on a stand here because we're now in a holding pattern. We need to order new motor mounts. We need to order a few parts. We're not going to be able to get this motor in as fast as I wanted to. That's the name of the game. You can only know what to get once you know to get it. So, we have this guy needs to come off. We have the short water pump that needed to come off the old motor. Just a few things. Well, when I was pulling this apart, I realized real quick, you'll kind of see it right here. They put some helicoils in to fix the fact that they threaded these really bad bolts in. You know, because we don't need threads where we're going. The center bolt will hold it on. It won't. It turns belts for a reason. So whoever was running this motor had helicoiled all these holes so that these very damaged bolts would go back in there. Now, I guess that's one way to fix a problem. We're going to have to probably replace this harmonic balancer or helicoil them better, thread them, whatever we got to do. But that's a problem on our old motor. Not a big deal. We're not using this motor, but just another one of those. Some people just don't do things correctly. I'm guessing they didn't realize that these were fine threaded. So instead of doing it right with the right bolts, they helicoiled them and ram bolts in. Yep. Always look at what you're buying, because even done right, people still do things wrong. This is a solution. I'm not against it. It's just, why did it happen in the first place? Well, things happened. I was going to flip the motor and pull the pan and check things, but without a radiator in the car, I really didn't think there was water in the motor, but you always drain your motors before you flip them upside down, because water. And now we got a valve cover drain pan, even though we had the drain pan. Yeah, never mind. It's fine.
We might even tighten up
You know, I didn't loosen that, but now you point it out. You don't need to. It was just wedged in there. It's fine. Nothing needs to be tightened. We're going to run this thing. Yeah, because they never would have tightened. You can't tighten those bolts once the motor's in there. weird.
Wonder if they're cross-threaded into the block.
Oh, don't say things like that. I mean, that would take some doing. Oh.
One of them turns by hand.
I think, like what most people do, is they don't realize the length they need to get that bolt. So what they did is they just put too long of a bolt in. This pan,
You would have known a bent
I need a
pan.
wrench. Yeah, that has a bump out against
What size?
3/8. That wool right there, I can't get a socket on, so I guess we're gonna have to hand wrench it out. Yeah, it's right up against the pan. That's not something you wanna.
Well, the pan was self-clearanced.
Yeah. Well, there is an issue with the fact that the oil filter was completely damaged, the oil pan's completely damaged. There could be something else going on here for sure. Just can't believe I can't get a nothing.
Nope.
Hmm.
Dumb.
Alright, this is gonna fight me to the whole end. Big discovery. Let's see what's under this pan. See if the parts fall out. Road hammer for the win. Oh, they were really good at sealing. Everything on this motor. Everything's sealed really good. I'm gonna need a pry bar of some kind. Wow. Everything on this motor is glued down.
The JB welded it. Oh my lord.
I really didn't want it to leak. Oh. Okay. Ooh. We got lots of fancy shiny.
Yeah, we do.
Those are nice connecting rods. Those are things have been done in here.
Uh-huh.
That's telltale sign that she's a 383 right in here where my thumb is. Shine light back in there. See how that's been clearanced out? She's a 383. They had to notch the bottom of the bores for the rotating assembly. So, we officially do have a 383. It looks like it's got a lot of shiny work done to it. So, at least we got something out of this whole mess. Is a 383 that looks really good on the bottom end.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even look that dirty. Look at that sludge in there. Nasty. That is the gasoline that washed the motor clean. So, we're going to turn this motor over and show you something we definitely know is wrong with it. We hear a ting when you turn it over. It doesn't sound right. So we're going to mark this at 21 or a nice little level. And you can see that line there. Now watch the edge of this flex plate as we turned over. Things have definitely gone sideways on whoever was installing this. And this might have been why the motor wasn't turned over very well when it was attached to the transmission. So we definitely have a damaged flex plate, bent at the minimum. Starters don't like that. So, yeah, this motor needs definitely looked at. Well, that's what you get. Other people's projects, other people's used stuff. As we lay under this Oldsmobile Omega and realize how greasy these subframes are due to improperly installed transmissions. There's our speedo cable we didn't know we had. I don't know why that's so greasy. But this car's in really good shape. Look, it has like the original black paint on things. It's really good. Like not rusted out at all. I mean, that's just surface rust. Ain't nothing bad about that. I mean, for the age of this car, it's really good. If it was me, I'd probably put some new body bushings in there, but not mine. So budget built equals not correct. Good enough. We're gonna go with good enough. Now, this is something to point out on these old 60s and 70s cars like this. this subframe is spot welded together. You could make these a lot more rigid just by getting underneath here with a welder and just welding them up a little tighter. There's not a lot of good welds holding these together. And you can even see where that weld right there, that just burned through and they just moved on because that's what they did back then. These cars were built on a good enough scenario. Now, as I sit here in this engine bay, talking about engine mounts and how things are wrong, I would like to add, here again, it's a good lesson. Don't blame the person who owned your car before you, because you bought said disaster. So we can be as mad as we want about every previous owner and all the horrible things they did, but all we can do at the end of the day is fix them. So, we're not mad, we're just pointing this out for everyone else who's watching and learning. These are little things that you could probably do and get away with, but it's not in your best interest. So, we're gonna keep fixing this thing up, and yeah, don't hate the people who fixed your car. Yeah, be angry. It's okay, but yeah, don't be angry at anybody but yourself most of the time. Moving on. Alrighty, you can all take notes. That is a number 12S micro electric fuel pump, 12 volt, whatever you want to call it, Mr. Gasket model. Now, if you go online, you look up that model number. I don't need to explain this to you. The company who made it will explain it to you. This is not meant to be here. You can get electric pumps. You can mount them wherever you want. They will work. But it is not correct. It's just not. They do make pumps that will go under your hood and will pull just as good as pushing fuel. We've talked about this in a previous short video, so we're not going to go real on about it. But we are going to use this little fancy pump to pump out all that old fuel that's 2+ years old that smells like rancid dog. So, we're going to just wire her up and drain the tank with it, because I think that's a good idea at this point. And then we're going to get rid of it, because it does have self-tappers running through the inside of the fender well that kind of get really close to the tire. Lots of things wrong here. Have your own beliefs, have your own ideas, but I don't agree with putting these cheap plastic fuel pumps under the hood of your car. Alrighty, we're going to use this 18 volt battery, because 12 volt power supplies like 18 volts. Just kind of however we can make it work to get this thing to pump some fuel out would be great. Ta-da! Alright, with some quick work for some alligator clips on the wires, we've made a hands-free model. Now, I would like to point out one more time how bad of an idea these are to have under your hood. Because I was pulling this apart, just taking the lines off, and I wiggled that a little, and it pulled right on out of there. Like, nothing was keeping it in there. I'm not really even sure how it wasn't just spraying fuel out of that the whole time. So yeah, better left under the car, for sure.
You're wrong.
You're frickin' wrong. Even Fairlane guy knew that the fuel pump goes under the back.
Yep.
Fairlane guy put light switches in cars.
Yep.
So, there's that. And we like pointy bits going towards our tires, too. That's always good.
Another thing failing guy didn't do.
Yep, he didn't put pointy bit self-tappers towards your tires. I don't understand how this was ever going to stay in there. Like, I don't get this whole, like what is going on there? How did that not just blow apart the whole time we were messing with it? I'm so confused. Maybe it was supposed to be press fit in there, and the press fit let go. Yeah, let's just get this out of the car. I'm done looking at the disaster this thing is. Okay, well, under further inspection, we don't think this rotating assembly is any good either. Here again, we're staring at this motor because waiting on parts, waiting on other things we can do, so Might as well mess with this guy. Ooh, that's never a good sign. This is the problem when you're running too much fuel through there. Oh no. Yeah, that I'll take those. Keep all these nice washers. We gotta keep track of those, but you can see now there's no gold in there yet, but that's done. It's going to need bearings. Crank might be okay. Might be gouged. Yep, specials. All the special people out there. Oh, it just reeks of fuel. You can just smell the fuel on the main. Don't take your electric fuel pump, blow it past your worn out Edelbrock carburetor, and crank a motor over about 1,000 revolutions just to see if it'll run in your car when you knew it wouldn't. It ruins things. No buens. No buens indeed. Bearing el gono. We're using this beautiful product, Crud Cutter, the must for rust. And we're gonna smear that on everything. We've actually done the cross members already, and we're gonna get this all kind of cleaned up, sealed up with some high engine temp paint, do a flat color, and just something to do before we go jamming it all in here. And you can see this. This came out real clean. It's mostly grease, but that Crud Cutter really got rid of all that grease and exposed the metal. It says it's good for paint. I still used some Duplicolor grease and wax remover, and we'll get that all clean, and we'll get it all sprayed up. So yeah. Now it's not perfect, but it's way better than what it was. Got her all shined up. We were gonna go with flat paint, and I bought what I thought was flat paint, and it turned out to be semi-gloss. So in lieu of going and getting different paint, we just used it, and we're not regretting it that much. But we would prefer flat black rather than semi-gloss. Alrighty, we're gonna try to stab this motor and get a clearance to the engine mounts and make sure everything's straight. So go in a little more. There. Nothing's lining up. Let's try to get that one in, and then we'll set it down more and see if it lines itself up. That's actually better. Okay. It's not. There we go. It's just a snug fit. Yep. So there, the motor mounts are in. All right, well, we've checked the oil pan clearance. We're good there. It's very tight. Truck pan definitely very close, but we're good there. Motor mounts all seem to fit and line up. We are worried about kind of the direction of everything lining up in the car, but we got to get the tranny on to prove that out. So we're going to pull it back out, get the tranny attached to it, and stick it back in. Now, potentially, we would like to put an Oldsmobile motor back in this, not a GM motor, or not a Chevy motor. So we got this fancy little plate adapter, and then we're going to use an Oldsmobile transmission to bolt to our GM motor. So, like so, we'll have to shim our torque converter bolt accordingly. And we're going to use an Oldsmobile 350 turbo that's freshly rebuilt and acquired for a reasonable price. Alright, there's the plate, all bolted on, adapting our Oldsmobile 350 turbo to our General Motors 305. Didn't think about that. Didn't think about all the training fluid. Alright, I gotta go find my yoke for the back. Okay. Neat feature of this guy. You just can't do one of these. Come on, quit fighting me. One-handedness is not working out for this.
What did you do, Will?
I twisted her up in there. turn the hook. There we go. Messy boys. We got this card underneath there because it's about the perfect height without the crossmember that we're cleaning up. Probably should have, I don't know, cleaned the crossmember up first, had it ready to go. No. The cart is a genius idea because we're going to try to roll the car forward with the cart, if it cooperates, and then get some floor dry underneath here to clean up this mess instead of rolling around in it, because we can't really jack the car up all that much. So yeah, we could have done this better ways. We didn't think it through, but here we are. So this is the plan.
Like a glove.
All right, let's address something. Admit when you're wrong. Redo all the work you've already done. We just set this stuff on top to visualize the awesomeness. But as we installed this motor, we realized the motor mounts just didn't quite fit right, but they weren't labeled left to right, so we weren't sure which side they went on. And due to these little tabbage off the back of the crossmember, they didn't fit the way I thought they should have gone on. And to my own discredit, I trusted the internet when it said they just fit this year, when the reality of it is that little tab was added so they could go to a newer style motor mount. Even though the online says these motor mounts fit the car, that is completely untrue. That little tab needs to be removed for them to fit properly. So, as you can see, we have a lot of real estate behind the motor. Now, that real estate was gained by the fact that these motor mounts are too far forward. We now know that once everything's in the car. You can also see by the fact that our crossmember is not really lining up with our mount, and our drive shaft is about that much too short. Putting a motor in is not difficult, so we're just going to keep putting it in and out until we get this right. So, here we go again. We're going to pull this whole rig out, put the motor mounts in correctly, after grinding off the tabs, and reinstall. Sometimes you're wrong, and it just equals more work and time. These little back tabs back here need to get cut off. These motor mounts need to get flipped so that they actually go back farther, this being in the way. Let's get these pulled off. So, they should actually go on like so. Problem being, this piece is in the way. So we're gonna grind these off on both sides. And these will just drop right on there. And I should have known that when we originally started doing it, because it makes a lot more sense. And when you tell yourself stuff like, hey, I should grind that, or those should come off, and they shouldn't just go on like this, which they totally line up. The motor mounts are in there correctly, so now we can stab the whole thing again, because we like doing this a lot of times. It's not working. This little thing. Motor is where it needs to be in the car, but crossmember for the transmission still does not line up. Has a lot to do with the deep pan not allowing this piece to get close enough for the mount. So we're going to modify this crossmember. This is all a bunch of pieces of metal stuck together. We've already kind of trimmed a little relief there, trimmed a little relief there. We're going to knock out all the spot welds to hold this together. We're going to fold this over and weld it all back up. And we're going to maybe do something diagonal here, and then this crossmember should slide right in and bolt up to the actual tranny mount and reach the holes we need it to reach. Not sure why this doesn't fit. It could be because we're using an Oldsmobile tranny and this is for a Chevy tranny. I don't know the difference. I'm not gonna look it up. I'm not gonna mess around with it. We're just gonna cut, modify, and make it work. Sometimes you just got to do that, or you just got to go buy the right crossmember. This could be the right crossmember, but our aftermarket tranny pan is way deep, so it doesn't actually sit on here like it should. So this is a good idea just for serviceability, because we may be able to actually get at the bolts in the tranny pan without moving the crossmember in the future. I don't know that for sure yet, but that's the plan. Cut, fold, weld. Strong. Alright, I'm gonna get back to work. Alrighty, we have done a lot of modification to the crossmember. And we got it all bolted back in here. We'll show you more about that when we make it look pretty. So it's got to come back out. The point of all this is we're mocking this up. Alright, well, here's our crossmember. Ton of relief cuts, rolled it under, made it look pretty. It's not pretty. So we're going to finish grinding these down, remove some from here, roll that under, and we're going to weld it all back together, make it look nice. I just cut myself on it. Even better. It's sharp. It's definitely sharp. Now, I believe in overkill and probably putting way too much effort in, but that's just the way it is. So this is coming out real nice. Just looking smooth. I'm welding all this edge because you can see this thing was put together with just randomized spot welds to clamp these two pieces together. And as I was reforming and beating on this thing, it like kept falling apart and becoming flimsy. So I had to put the bolts in there to hold everything. So I'm just gonna put a nice little bead all along here. I've already done it over here. And yeah, should be real fancy and strong. And then I'll do a little bit back here, a little bit back here, a little bit. And we'll have a crossmember that will do crossmember things and probably be stronger than it ever was from the factory. Alright, there it is, done. Got all these edges welded up, seamed. We're very strong now. It's a little ugly right here, but I'm just not going to mess with it that much more. It does the job. It definitely clearances pan now. I won't paint it up and you won't know the difference. It's stronger, it's better, and it fits our aftermarket pan we didn't really plan on having. You could probably just go buy a tranny crossmember that would have worked, but low budget means you get to modify the things you have and make them better than what they were originally. So we'll get this all painted up and put back in the car. Alrighty, we got valve covers and intakes and water pumps on. Now we're working on the fuel pump down there, and hopefully we'll get that all put on. So we're just a lot of engine assembly stuff while we wait for that crossmember to dry so we can get the transmission all buttoned up and in. So just keep plugging away. It's tedious, but that's a car project for you. Well, after all the modifying and painting and making it pretty, we test fitted this crossmember again, and when we get it all bolted in there, the transmission actually hits it right here. When the transmission rocks a little bit, it goes tangity, tangity, tangity. So we gotta cut this out and reinforce it. I'm not sure why this crossmember does not fit this transmission at all, but everything else seems to be fitting really good, frame and mount wise. Just now a little bit the corner of the pan smacks right there. So without a bunch of noisy vibration and beating up the pan, we're just gonna modify this little corner, fix it back up, and go from there. Alrighty, well, we painted it hot so it looks all perforated, but you can see, and now we're modified for the transmission again. We cut it and beat it in and welded it, and so strong, so very strong. Alright, it's gonna work this time. No more modification. We're really hoping we didn't yeah. It's gonna work.
Yeah.
Alright, after many modifications, the driveline is officially bolted in. Drive shaft on there and everything. Heavily modified crossmember. So, we're on our way to running and driving car. This is close. So that's how much we had to clearance it and make it look pretty to get around that pan. And then right up here, where we did that divot, it would stop hitting right here. This is clearanced because we were catching the corner of this. There we go. Fixed. Functioning crossmember. Time to go through the old carburetor that came off the 383. We know this thing probably has junk in it. We're not even going to guess and try to put it on the motor. So we got our little clean workspace we've created. We got some bolts, prop the carburetor up, and we're just going to start pulling this thing apart and see what we find and get her all rebuilt. That's a varnish and gunk and just all bad. So you want to pull these open and just take a look, get everything cleaned up. Just nasty. All of our parts out of this carburetor are what you'd call bad. So we can clean and we can make a bunch of these work. I'm not too worried about some of these parts, but this is our float. And it's looking pretty nasty. And this float we started to clean up a little bit. And we actually found that it's dripping, which means there's liquid inside of it, which means it is bad. So that puts some reality to what we previously said about the 383. The electric fuel pump was pushing right past the floats and filling the crankcase full of fuel. Now, that wasn't the people installing its fault. It was the carburetor's fault. But it was technically their fault for not opening the carburetor up and checking it before they tried to run it. We're going to get this all dipped and cleaned, and then we'll see what kind of kit we got to buy to get this old 1406 going again. Potentially, we could run into just needing to buy a carb, because this thing's pretty gross. A lot grosser than I thought it was going to be. But I got to get it rebuilt and put back together anyway. If for anything, you know, to sell, because gross. So we have done a bad job at being YouTubers and filming things, but we've plumbed and we got this temporary alternator on there and our pulleys and our fuel pump, and we just keep plugging away and figuring out what else we need and what little parts we got to go get, and we just keep going to the parts store and find all this quality Spectra. Nah, it's fine. It's cheap, so that's what we're doing. We also, new carburetor. Distributor's kind of in where it should be. This header's mocked up. We got to run some lines for the vacuum for the transmission and the transmission lines. We got the starter on there. Just going to mock up the header on this side. So we're just going to keep plugging away, running lines. We also got a bunch of new parts for radiator and coolant system. And trying to get this thing buttoned up. This is the original bracket for an inline 6. It's not going to work on our V8. Worth it. Alright. So, just make sure you use your hand as a hammer. And you just smack all your bolts until they come loose. Make sure you break a couple knuckles while you're doing it. Just a real healthy. It's also another great time to just kind of go through and clean this mess up. Alrighty, a little cleaning, a little paint. Pump looks brand new again. Now when it gets all dried up, we'll put all the brackets on there and we'll bolt her to the motor. So iron string pumps on there. And we got the lines routed. They're definitely hitting right there. So we got no adjustments. We're trying to bend that up a little. I just don't know how we're going to use this pump. We just keep trying, keep failing. So, you know, occasionally you just have to buy some stuff. That header went on nicely. Everything's lining up there. Not really sure why the previous guy decided to beat the holy bejesus out of there. But, you know, we were trying to jam it in from the top instead of the bottom like you're supposed to. Not really sure. Got some linkaged. And then when we were trying to figure out how to mount the kickdown, the old kickdown cable, you know, a little key tip when you buy a used transmission. It's maybe been sitting in the back of somebody's garage for a while. Make sure your kickdown cable actually moves, because this one is locked up. We're having a problem getting it out of the transmission. To replace it, we're going to have to drop the tranny pan, which means we're going to have to take out the crossmember, which means a lot more work to figure out something we should have checked in the first place. So, 4 steps forward, 20 steps back. Right now, we've built this apparatus that's some engine oil in there, and it leaks a little, so we had to build a band-aid. But the kickdown cable is currently submerged in engine oil, and what we're hoping is that the oil is actually working like an IV, so that the oil is getting inside the cable, hopefully getting down to where it's seized and freeing it up. So it's been sitting in this little oily bath IV for, about 24 hours now. So hopefully that unseizes it. We're probably going to end up pulling the tranny pan anyway to try to figure out how to get that cable off and replace it, because it is stuck. And you can't have a stuck kickdown cable hooked to your carburetor. It's definitely going to affect the whole full throttle operation. So we got tranny lines in. We can do some wiring. We need to get this header on. So if we get starter wiring and some other things done, maybe, I don't know. We did go out and get another power steering pump that we thought we could throw on there. But in lieu of cleaning that one up and making it nicer, it doesn't actually have the right bolts to run the aftermarket mount that we bought. So to run this mount, it needs a bolt on the back that we don't have. So that one will not work either. We went and got it, and that was a waste of time as well. So that one's out again. Pretty much stuck using this one. We just need to find a pulley. So I think we might have another pulley out at the farm. I should have grabbed it when I grabbed that power steering pump. So we're going to run back out there and grab another pulley and see if we can make this all work. And then potentially bend up the fixed line on the return without kinking it, and get it so this doesn't affect how we are down there. Probably more than likely end up buying a whole new pump, and I really don't want to do that because we are trying to maintain just using spare parts and budget building this thing. But as you can tell by the new carburetor, the new alternator, a lot of new bracketry, it's just not happening on this build. All right, finally got the old kickdown cable off. Figured out that the little eyelet that's supposed to be sticking out of there, it's jammed up to about there, and that's why it won't come out. And we can't get that cable to move. So I had to open up the transmission, and once I opened up the transmission, I had to disconnect this little guy that connects to the eyelet. And then once that was disconnected from the actual tranny housing, I fished this out of the kickdown cable. So it took a lot of effort and a lot of anger to get this apart so we can replace this kickdown, because we cannot get that kickdown to slide inside of its own tube. I'll show you how this works on a different tranny I have sitting over there. Now the way this should work is you should just be able to get over, pull that out like that, there's your bolt, and you should be able to just pull your cable up, and it should expose the eyelet, and there's your little lever that's pulling on the inside of the transmission. In ours, this lever, or I guess this metal bar, was up inside there because this cable wouldn't move. So we had to actually pull that bar out of the transmission from the bottom side, fish it off there, and now our cable's stuck. So we're either going to steal this kickdown cable or get a new one. Yeah, that's just what we ran into the problem of. This was seized, this wouldn't move, so we actually had to open up the case to get that little rod out of there. More explanation from the bottom side is this little guy goes right into here somewhere, and then connects down to a little mechanism right down here that I took off, and that's the gist of it. So I will put all those little pieces back on to get that bar back where it's supposed to be, and then we'll be ready for a new kickdown. Come in the top here, clip to said little bar clip, and then we can put the tranny pan back on, and then bolt the crossmember back in. Yeah, definitely make sure you have a kickdown cable that's not seized before you put your tranny in your car. Now, we've fished the new kickdown cable in. Got it hooked on the little bar. And now you can kind of see little bar. Why we had to replace it, here again, that eyelet was about up into there, and that little bar was bent and pulled up into the kickdown cable. Yeah, kickdown cable repaired. Kept running into problems with this power steering pump. Hitting down here, no adjustment. What we figured out last night is, see that bracket right there? Bring it a little closer. That bracket is upside down. So, that part did not come with instructions, and there you go. We're going to flip it over, and then those lines will clear no problem. Okay. We may start looking for a different set of pulleys. I don't know. Nothing on the front of this car is lining up for nothing. Alright, after getting a little inventive, we had to build this little piece here. This bracket came with no instructions, and it works. Now we have all the adjustment we need. But I don't like it. Should have gone with a different bracket, but that's what we have. So we're not waiting for another one. Took too long to get it. I'm being lazy today, and I'm watching. Because after a while, working on a car gets to you. But you just keep stumbling through. And what he's doing over there right now is he's pulling the rubber plugs through the top piece, and he put some silicone on them. And he's just popping them on through so they stay on that upper piece support there. And then we've already test fitted that, so we know it's going to fit on top of the radiator. He's going to do his due diligence to make sure he scratches that shiny black paint. Mm-hmm. Looking good. Yeah. Looking good. Alright, I'll just bend up those training lines, and the coolant system will pretty much be there. I'm going to get the alternator hooked up. We're going to get the starter hooked up. See if we can zoom and hit the starter and turn the motor and see if the starter is shimmed correctly, so we don't have to take the starter off a bunch of times once the header's on there. Is the key on? I'm checking to make sure that key's not on. Totally is on, isn't it?
It's totally on.
Because there was things clicking there. Alright, key's off.
There we go. Door.
Ooh, door buzzer. Alright, nothing's melting or starting on fire, so
Yet.
we'll actually hook this up. Spando commando. Yeah, that's pretty tight, but it'll go.
That's good.
It is fine. So, nothing's on fire, so that's a plus. Let's check some power. We have no voltage currently on this wire, so if he turns the key on... Oh! I guess the wipers... Make sure that wipers are off. Okay, key's in the on position, still got no power. So crank it to full crank. 12.56, let off. Alright. Hit it again. Alright, that's our exciter wire. You never want to hook those up right away, because you could hit that and all of a sudden your starter starts taking off, depending on what wires have been messed with. We were assuming nothing had much been messed with here, but you never know. Never trust that everything's been untouched. So we're going to hook the starter up, and we're going to see how bad she grinds away with the unshimming we've done. Just bump it. Cool. So the starter's broke. That's
Never trust starters in trunks.
Yeah, trunk starters? Not. So we're going to take... Really? Wow. Okay, well, trunk starter's no good. Give her a whack. Hit that starter. Oh, yeah, there she goes. That starter's up, Junko. Nothing?
Nothing.
It won't even pull it back in either.
Nice.
Yeah, go. Yeah. Ooh. Pick it again?
Nothing.
Nothing. Alright, we're done here. We've proven the starter is dead. It is all junk. The lesson here, boys and girls, is nothing that has come with this car has been usable. Nothing. Not even the starter. So yeah, we need a starter. We just can't win.
No.
Can't win. Alrighty. So anybody that cares to know, you test your starter before you put it in, which we did not do, but we know now it is broken because everything that has come with this car, broken. So we got our little exciter wire right here. We got our ground to the body of the starter. We got our positive. Same way over there with our old battery. This should make the starter go, and it does not at all. There she goes. Yeah, that thing is toast.
She gone.
Junk. That's how you test a starter.
Yeah.
If they work, they spin. If you didn't know.
Yep. Never trust trunk pods.
Yeah, trunk part's bad. We're pretty sure they stopped trying to kill this motor when the starter died. But they had killed the motor pretty good. So, it's neither here nor there. Starter did its job until it didn't. Alright, we've done a lot of things. Things have happened. So we're gonna get the safety gear together. You never know. We may not be as good as we think we are, so that's right there. And we got all the plug wires on. We got all the things on. Got some temporary wiring going over there. We don't got ignition going anything yet. We've spun it a couple times just to make sure the starter's shimmed-ish.
Yeah.
Ish. Alright. So we got the battery in. Now we're going to need to get some fuel up into that fueling filter. So we'll spin her over a little bit. Okay. Well, it definitely has a leak. So, pretty sure that's fuel. I don't know where it's coming from, but be right behind the gauge.
Probably.
Yep. That's why you test these things.
Ignition optional.
Yeah, ignition optional. No need to fire with fuel spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Right.
Nope. Kill it.
Oh, she's really building some pressure.
Yep. Expect a fuel rail. Maybe not so good on the plating.
All right, it's sealed. I don't know what was going on there.
Teflon tape was threaded backwards.
Put extra on there?
We know we got the fuel.
Yep.
We haven't checked for the sparky. I checked the oil now that we've turned it over a couple times. See if that's changed colors to something visible.
Negatory.
It's low? Not low?
No, it's very clear.
We have no way of knowing if we're getting oil pressure.
Nope.
So, there's that. So we're going to go with
About
yes.
half a quart low,
Half quart low now?
which is where it should be because it
Yeah,
filled.
so that means it's at least pulling oil up into some places.
Yep.
All right, oil gauges would be awesome, but we're not there yet. Not there yet. We're also not. Yeah, don't pay attention to any of that. There's also an issue with that bottom pulley. We'll address that later. So ignition.
Ignition. See what happens.
Ignition. Do you want to? Yeah, you got pedal options, so yeah.
Uh-oh. No spring on there.
Oh, no return spring. Yeah, don't do that. We're not doing that. Okay.
We'll have to do it by hand.
Yep, I'll do it by hand. Hit her.
Again?
I don't know if it was a good running, but we're timed somewhat correctly.
Again, I pulled everything back apart, put it at.
It's
right at
idling
top
fast. Oh, yeah, that's why. Okay. Okay,
Hit it again.
hit it again. You gonna sit here and idle even? We'll let that oil kind of do oily things.
It's gonna get hot.
True. Alright, one second.
Kill it.
Sounds kind of heavy.
Alright, well. I don't like the little bit of clattering we got going on. But it may just need to oil and
Just need to oil everything.
yeah, warm up.
Yeah.
So everything that came with this car is junk. Because we just figured out that center pulley's bent. The bottom pulley's bent. So we're just gonna get all new pulleys. So, yeah. But look, we have a fan. And we're gonna tighten a belt and have a water pump. And we bypass the water heater core. And we're just gonna be good. We're gonna have spinny bits until they throw in our face. So we're gonna watch that part. Because everything's just a little tweaked. Yeah. Put it directly in line of play.
No.
Okay,
No.
Make sure the throttle's pulled all the way down.
Yep.
Okay, all the way down.
And all the way down.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Hit it again. Yep. Let it heat cycle.
Yeah, but you're not. If we can get it here and idle and come up to heat a little bit, then that'll help us on the timing a little bit.
Yep. Well, yeah, 'cause it's all got a.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that header contacting the actual subframe is probably making some bad noises when the motor flexes hard like that. Oh, by the way, there's a header contacting the subframe right now. Hold the brake tightly
Yeah.
with extra vigor. Because I have no idea if they work, so go back to neutral if they don't. Oh. Oh, brake. Oh, yeah. Reverse.
That was reverse.
Okay. Drive. Oh yeah, we got spinny gears. These are all good things. We're gonna have to quit for the day and take the win. We're just gonna keep going with this, huh? Even though it's hot and we're already winning.
Yeah, we're good. No, we're gonna super win.
Super win.
Super win.
So we can inside throttle it.
Uh-huh. Spectre performance. Yep, from right there.
As long as it has enough spring to spring back.
Yep. I just gotta get a
I
small.
mean, there you, yeah.
Should have.
Is there a bolt hole there? Oh yeah, I see what you're doing there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take nothing out.
No.
Yeah, we'll see. See if that works. If not, we'll just get some different springs or something. All right. Spring stuff. You can't leave well enough alone.
Nope.
Back out in the garage again, making a small list for the day. Omega. It's got an oil leak. We figured that's the old pressure sender. Got trans leak. Looks like we need to tighten the lines. Probably should have given a little more ugga-duggas on those. Shroud mounting. We're going to do some shroud mounting. Return spring for the carburetor. Still figured out how to mount that. Trans vacuum. Not done yet. Rear diff needs to be serviced because who knows what's going on in there. And the exhaust needs to be drastically clearanced. Let's finish this thing up. Now, we just put this stuff here yesterday. Can you see the webbage? Spider has claimed our tools. These are now Spider's tools. Hey, Spider. What's going on? Can we have our tools back? Yeah, you better run. Sneaky Spider. Oh, geez, that is an aggressive spider web. I'm getting you, Spider. I'm messing up your web. All right. Got my tools back. Yep. Due to the fact that this thing is gross right here, where it looks like it's been spewing grease, out where the vent lives,
Yes.
we're going to be taking these bolts out and checking this fluid, because the amount of miles on this car do not fare well for proper maintenance and things being done. So, let's get this thing all cleaned out. Yeah. It's not terrible. Block. It's in my beard. It's got all over my face. Oh, if it had a gasket at some point in time, it was a while ago.
Yep.
But it does not look like
No anti-seize.
aluminized soup. So, no aluminized soup. Gotta get that off there. Here's our. You got a 1340. I'm looking for any inconsistencies in the spider gears.
Any teeth method. It gets so stiff.
Push in on your axle. And not too much side-to-side slop. That's about factory. It's not exposing the C-clips when you do it, so
That's good.
at least that's going on. I'm not seeing anything I hate.
No teeth missing out of the spiders.
Nope. Looking decent-ish. You gotta give it the old smell test. Oh yeah, she still smells like gear lube. I can smell the viscosity. Alright, as you can see, we have definitely made it through the list. That is kind of what's left. We haven't shown you the list the whole time, but there it is. We fixed the exhaust by, giving her the old hammeroo. Rear diff, we gotta put some oil in right now. Trans vacuum, return spring for the carburetor. Shroud is mounted. Trans lines are tight. We'll see if they leak. And the oil pressure gauge is tight as well. So, those are the kind of the final notes to the end of this project. And let's get this thing out of here. All right, we're gonna fire her up, let her warm up, and check for leaks again. Listen to this sassy girl. Yeah, see if you can get in there.
Getting into my fusion.
Questionable brakes? No, they work. Oh, there's your header. First place we go to get gas, and first place we get to talk chop with a guy in a Mustang. So that's why we do cars. Because of the people. My door's open. Well, you gotta shut it. Brakes definitely need attention. But she makes noise and she shifts good. And she'll spin tires if you let her. She'll actually spin them between shifts. Oh, those brakes are bad. Just feeling her walk a little bit on that gear shift. Well, everybody, if we didn't accomplish something at the end of the day, we accomplished this car driving back into this garage instead of being pushed back into this garage. It definitely became way more than a simple motor swap, but I'm really proud of how it actually turned out, and this car will be cherished for a long time. So just remember, regardless if you want something to be exactly right or perfect, running and driving is pretty good in my book. This is a perfect example of a car that can just be cruised, appreciated, and just become part of the family again, instead of something tucked away in the back of a garage that you just talk about that never actually happens. So get out there, get some good friends, and build something, because you won't regret it. Also, if you've made it this far in this video, we really appreciate it, and we hope you come along for more. And like always, like, share, subscribe, and you have a good day.